Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very grateful host. Thank you, folks, for being here today and every day. Ever since we made the move to 5 days a week, you folks have just shown up in numbers. I cannot thank you enough for what you've done, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, and the DMs. Wow, you guys have just absolutely risen to the occasion. Cannot thank you enough. You are making all my dreams come true. And if you're not out there doing everything that you're doing, I can't sit here and do all the things I'm doing. So I hope one of the reasons you're doing all that is because we keep bringing you powerful guests like the ones we have today, talking about very powerful topics. And I think you're going to enjoy this one. I think this is going to hit you right in the pocketbook and maybe give you a little something to think about. Before we get going with that, you guys all know what time it is. That's right. We've got to pay a couple of bills. So let me take a sip of my preferred beverage. Man, that is fantastic stuff. If you're a friend of the program, and I know you are, you know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee. At Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Go check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful. Just like my wife. They brew a mean cup of joe. It's absolutely fantastic. They do all the right things for all the right reasons. And they support veterans, which is another reason why we support them the way that we do. Folks all know how important veterans are here to us at Power Man Podcast. A lot of you veterans out there listening, I know we got Memorial Day coming up. And at least at the time of this podcast, by the time it comes out, it's probably going to have passed. I want you guys all to know that we're thinking about you. You matter, and we're here for you. Okay? Back to it. Freedom Hill Coffee, guys, at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Tell them Power of Man sent you. Delicious. Got to run. There it is. Beautiful. Let me introduce our guest today. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown here. He's a Christian. He is a husband. He is a father. He's an accountant, a podcast host. He's an author. He's a farmer, and he's a business coach. Folks, I mean, this guy's qualifications are as long as my arm, and if he doesn't bring something for you today, then you're not paying attention. So get ready. Please welcome to the podcast, Ralph Estep Jr. Sir, how you doing today?
Rory, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm not worthy of the introduction, but I'll try to make myself worthy through our discussion today.
I appreciate that very much. You have your irons in the fire, my friend. You have a lot going on. To start with, why don't you go ahead and tell our audience who is Ralph Estep Jr., what are you about, and what brings you here today, brother?
Well, the first thing I'll tell people is I'm saved by grace, not by my own work, but by grace. So I'll start there because that's the core purpose of where I see myself being here. And my goal really in life at this point in my career, I've been doing accounting work for over 30 years. My goal now is to reach out there and put my arm around men and women who are struggling with their finances, struggling with purpose, struggling to try to figure out how to make things better in their life. I do a daily podcast show, and I never realized when I launched that in November 2023 just what a commitment I was making. But you know what, Rory? The truth is, this is my mission field. And I think all of us are given a purpose by God when we're quiet enough to listen and we let God say to us, here's what I want you to do. And I remember the day that it hit me. I was traveling overseas with my wife and my oldest son. My oldest son serves in the U.S. Coast Guard. He's stationed in Galveston. And we took a trip. My first overseas trip, we went to Germany. And on the second day of the trip, we went to Dachau, which is a concentration camp, former concentration camp. And I remember standing there and I was thinking about my life, and I had been very successful in my life. I had the fancy cars and the fancy watches and the beach houses and all that. And I looked around and I said, think about the people who stood here 70 years ago, who didn't have they had nothing to look forward to. And I said, you know what, Ralph, it's time to do something. It's time to give back. So that was really the reason I launched the show. That's the reason I do what I do every day. My goal is if I can talk and help one person, just one person today, if I can give them a little hope, if I can give them a little encouragement, if I can come alongside them, put my arm around them and say to them, brother, it's going to be okay, or sister, it's going to be okay. Here's something profitable that you can use today to change the dynamic of where you are. And that's really been what I'm doing. I raise Black Angus cows here on the farm. So a lot of people come in to get their taxes done. I do bookkeeping work or accounting coaching. They're like, are you really a farmer? I'm like, Absolutely. I have black Angus cows. When they come in, they can buy beef here. It's kind of a funny thing. I said, I'll do your accounting work and I'll give you a T-bone to take with you. So, Rory, that is really true. And I'm just now launching my second podcast, actually, which is going to be a weekly podcast because I can't do another daily. As much as I'd like to, it's just too much. So I'm doing a weekly podcast. It's called Grit and Growth Business. And it's all about those people that aren't looking for the shortcuts. It's those people who know it's about grit. It's about determination. It's about there's no one thing that you're going to do to save your business. It's daily. It's putting in the effort. It's and getting on your knees and saying, Lord, what will you have me do? I think that is so important. And one of my big takeaways for today, Rory, is that faith and finances are they're joined. And a lot of people don't understand. I wrote my second book. It's called The Gospel of Entrepreneurship. And it's basically all about how you bring Jesus into your business. And a lot of people say, wait a minute, Ralph, I was always taught you don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion. But guess what? You do. And it speaks to your character. And listen, it's funny, Rory, because I've come across people that's like, well, Ralph, I don't agree with your Christian stance, man, but man, you stand for something. You have character. And it might not be that I win them to the Lord. I might not win them, but they're going to hear a message. They're going to hear a ministry. When they come in my office, I have a stack of free Bibles. And they'll say to me, oh, take one of these. I'll give it to my neighbor. My neighbor would probably read this, And it's funny. I laugh about this sometimes, but, I'm kind of like doing that little coaxing, and just taking them along that road of, hey, look, there is a reason for you to be successful. And I basically the takeaway is, look, it's not yours. A lot of people don't like me to say, I say this on my show all the time where it drives people crazy. They'll say to me, oh, I'm really struggling with my finances. I said, well, that's because you think you own it. But you don't own anything. We're just stewards. And I know I'm going all over the place here, Roy, but I just wanted to give you some background about what makes me tick, what my passions are. But we don't own it. And if you start there, if you just realize that you're a manager, God has given you all of this. It's your responsibility to steward. Now, like I said, I've gone on a tangent, Roy, so I'm going to pull it back down to earth, my friend.
Oh, you're not on a tangent at all. You're unloading a lot, which I love because you're just setting the stage. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you setting the table like that. I really do. I said, what are you all about? And you answered the question. That was beautiful. So let me back up for a minute because, I definitely want to get into how, your faith is involved in your business practice, in your coaching and that kind of thing, because I think that's going to be a big key. I do want to make sure that I'm getting this out to everybody, though. You have two podcasts. The first one is called Financially Confident Christian.
Correct.
Right now. Okay.
Yep,
And that's
you
your
go to
daily.
financiallyconfidentchristian.com. You can see everything right there.
Okay. And then your second one that you just started, that's the Grit and Growth Business. That's the one that's weekly.
Correct. Gritandgrowthbusiness.com.
Okay.
As at the time that you're playing this this episode, we'll probably have one or two episodes out there. Right now, we've got the trailer out there. I encourage people to go listen to it, see if it would be impactful to you.
Yeah. Nice. And then the books. Let me talk about these for a second because the first one was Mastering Your Finances.
Yeah, it's
right?
a 47-page, like 30,000-foot view of somebody who just wants to get a basic grip on where my finances go. And later in the show, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give your listeners a free e-copy of that. We'll talk about that later in the show. But I want to offer that to your listeners because I know how impactful this can be to anybody who's just in need of a little bit more financial assistance.
Nice. And then you mentioned the Gospel of Entrepreneurship. Just to kind of round this out, 2 podcasts, 2 books. Gospel of Entrepreneurship, then, just give them a quick succinct, is about exactly what?
It's about how to bring Jesus into your business. It's definitely focused on the business owner. It's focused on that owner that's trying to understand, Lord, why do I struggle so hard? Why do I do this? And Rory, I didn't mention this to you, but the third book's getting ready to be released too. And it's called this. Ready for this one, right?
All right.
It's called When Finances Fail, Faith Prevails. And it's all about, the biblical steps that you can take to break that cycle of financial shame, to break that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Because here's the sad part. About 70% of the U.S. population is living paycheck to paycheck. And I don't care what size your paycheck is, doesn't matter. I meet people that make $30,000 a year. I meet people that make $300,000 a year. There are still people out there who are hurting, living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. Now, your goal in doing all of this, I understand you want to give back, I guess I'd like to kind of refine that down a little bit more. What's the purpose of these various projects? What's the purpose of what it is you're doing right now?
Okay, you're going to laugh when I tell you this answer. You're not ready for this one.
Okay.
But the truth is this. I got to a point where I had the Rolex watch. I had the Breitling watch. I had the Mercedes Benz. I had the Corvette. And guess what, Rory? It didn't fill me. It was empty. And so, and you're probably, people are listening to this right now. Oh yeah, but God has blessed me. I've got enough business that God has blessed me. So now I really want to impact people where they are. I want to grow the kingdom. I want to grow people's business. I want to grow people's families, because here's the truth. When you look at why most marriages fail because of finance. Most marriages fail because people are struggling. The day-to-day pressures of trying to pay. Listen, our economy is tough. Prices are going up. I get it. If I can come alongside somebody and say, hey, my daily show, for example, I sort of call it a daily devotional, because I just grab one piece. Like, for example, I just recorded a show yesterday about, are you paying too much for insurance? Which might seem like a very secular question, but here's the deal, right? I took one thing and said, oh, find one piece of insurance that you pay for, and let's examine it. Let's look at it from all directions. Can you save money on it? Well, if you can save money on it, then do you put more money into your retirement? Do you put more money into the kids' college fund? Hey, here's a idea. Do you give more back to charity? And see, that's the thing, Roy, I encourage people to give first. And so what am I doing in my own life? I'm giving first, because I know this. I've learned this time and time again. If you really want to be successful in life, start with the preposition that you don't own it in the first place. God's just giving you those resources to steward. So God has given me talents. God has given me abilities. God has given me a voice. God has given me the ability to use technology. So you ask me, what am I doing with it? I want to reach the person who's struggling. I want to reach the person that says, Ralph, I just don't know how to get past where I am. I feel like a failure. I feel like I've lost. Look, here's the thing. We've all made mistakes. Listen, I'm sitting here. I've been in accounting for 30 years. You think I don't make mistakes? I make mistakes every day. Ask my wife. She'll tell you we make mistakes. So that's really the answer, Rory. My goal is to try to find that person, that one person. And listen, I'm not about numbers. I'm not about how many books you need. Those things are great. Fantastic, right? How many people listen to the show? I'm on YouTube. I'm on Rumble. I'm on TikTok. You name it. I'm on all of it. I got a great production team that puts me out all over the place. But my focus is on that one person. That one person that's sitting at the kitchen table just about to burst into tears because they realize they got more bills than they have money left in the month. That's the person I want to help.
A lot of those folks listening to this show, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, that the economy's been brutal on, the average blue collar American. So if that's who you're here to help,
Yes,
you're
it
talking
has.
to a lot of
It's
these
been
people.
rough.
Yeah, you're talking to a lot of those people today. So if somebody listens to your podcast, reads one of your books, what type of advice are they going to be able to expect in these projects that you have? That's going to maybe give them an example that's going to actually help them with their particular lives.
Real world, practical advice that doesn't take a rocket scientist to put into practice. One of my big things is, like, intentions are great, but actions are what matters. So every day on the show, as an example, this morning I recorded a show about how to make a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, attainable. You understand those things. So how do you create a goal? For example, a lot of people will say, I want to save money. That's not a goal, right? So I'm going to help you figure out, okay, how do I make that goal a reality? Let's change the dynamic here. I want to save $500. I want to have my baby emergency fund. I don't want to go tap on that credit card every time something happens. I want to build that baby emergency fund. So I'm going to say to them, here's how you do it. I want to build a $500 emergency fund. You're not going to do it next week, okay? But set a date for yourself. Okay, today is May the 14th. I want to have a $500 baby emergency fund in 60 days. So by July 14th, I want a baby emergency fund. Okay, I get paid weekly. All right, I got to put aside X number of dollars per week to get to that goal. Because then guess what? It's specific, it's measurable. Yes, you can attain it, You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I do on a daily basis. Take one little piece. I'm not going to overwhelm you. I'm not going to give you a list of, this is the thing that cracks me about podcast people. Well, let me give you my 10 items for success. Let me give you my 7. Nobody's going to take all that in. I'm sorry, they're not going to. And listen, I was guilty of that. If you go back and listen to my back catalog, even 6 months ago, man, I was doing 40-minute shows and 50-minute shows and hour-minute shows. And somebody said, Ralph, dude, the people you want to help need one little piece today. So that's what I'm doing, Rory. I'm giving you a piece today. It's not complicated. It's something you can, and listen, I'm going to be your biggest coach because guess what? The more people that can improve their finances, the better off we're going to be. Because I say this on the show all the time. You will never be able to give back until you get your own financial house in order. That's where it starts. You know, I want to see successful marriages. I want to see successful husbands. I want to see successful fathers. I want to see people out there who have a family that's all about the relationship because you know as well as I do, Rory, in life, it's not about how much money you have. It's about the relationships. So big picture, Ralph wants a relationship with his listeners. That's what I want to do. I want to be that person of, you know what? I bet you Ralph has an answer for that. And I'm just going to give you one piece at a time, just one little piece that you can take. And after 7 days, guess what? You got 7 pieces. After 30 days, like right now, I'm in the middle of a 30-day series called The Joy of Living Below Your Means. Now, a lot of people say, living below your means, what? You talk about beans and rice? No, there is joy. Like last week, I recorded a show, Rory, about the weekend's coming. How do you have fun on a budget? Because a lot of times people hear weekend, oh boy, the kids are going to want to go to the movies. Well, that's $100. The wife is going to want to go out for date night. That's $100. You understand. My wife and I were driving the other day and we were just talking. My son, like I said, he's down in Texas in the Coast Guard, but he used to be stationed in Florida and he would go to Disney World. And I said, what does it cost at Disney World? My wife says, you're never going to believe this, Ralph. She said, I just read this article. The average family, listen to this, $1,200 a day at Disney World. Now, I'm not picking on Disney World. Don't misunderstand me.
Ouch.
If that's what you want to do, I'll help you get to the point of saving for that vacation. But anyway, where I was getting at is I'm doing shows about practicality. How do you have date night with your wife to make it impactful but not impact your budget in a negative way? How do you have a conversation with your spouse about, we're struggling right now. How can we work as a team to get on the same page financially? How do you invest in your children to help them to understand scarcity and understand limited resources and understand, because here's the thing, like we've done a terrible job in this country of teaching people financial literacy. You know, we look at our kids and we wonder why they're struggling. Well, guess what? Because we haven't been good role models for the first thing. A lot of us are not good at it, right? So if we're not good at it, how in the world do you think your kids are going to be good at it? So that's my purpose. That's why I get up in the morning, Rory. It's like make an impact with just one little kernel of hope, one little kernel of, you know, on all my podcasts, I'd always put a sunrise because I think there's hope. No matter how far down you are. Listen, I know people that have declared bankruptcy. I know people that have lost every single thing. I can help that person still.
Wow. I mean, I love where you're coming from. I love where your heart is in this. In terms of the practical help, actually helping folks. You have a couple times today referenced the bringing in the Christian aspect of your life. Now, we're a heavily Christian podcast, so a lot of folks out here very open about their faith. A lot of folks out here very open about their finances. Also, in terms of what you just said, and I think you've described a very large number of people who listen to the podcast very well, you know, in the last couple minutes. But what you've mentioned is how you put those two things together. And that's just not something that I've heard before. And I've been out here for a little while. I'm a little long in the tooth. So for me to have never heard a concept before is kind of new. But go into that if you can. And I mean, you know, let these folks know what you're talking about, combining, you know, your faith and your finances to make them both win.
The first chapter of my 3rd book coming out, When Finances Fail, Faith Prevails, says, start with prayer. See, a lot of people would start with a budget, start with the debt, snowball, No, that's the wrong answer. A lot of people don't get, God wants you to be He wants you to prevail. I want to say prosperous because you get these knuckleheads out there, these prosperity preachers who are preaching this gospel of, oh, God wants you to be a millionaire. God, maybe not. Maybe God doesn't want that for you. Maybe if God gave that to you, you wouldn't be able to handle it, right? So I start off with the beginning of start with prayer. Say to God something simple. God, I've screwed this up from one end to the other. I've bounced checks. I'm in debt up to my ears. But start there. Start with prayer. Say, God, what would you have me to do today? How can I do? And if you start there, if you realize, like I said a few minutes ago, it's all his from the beginning. See, the problem with most people with their finances, they think it's theirs. And they lord over it. They protect it. Oh, I've got this much in my retirement account. I got this much in this, and I got this house. And okay, big deal. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Because God can take that away in an instant. Then what do you got? It's all about that relationship. So I start there. I start with that relationship with the living Christ and knowing that you can reach out to him whenever you need him. And sometimes, Rory, it's as simple as, Lord, I don't know which bill to pay this week. I'm struggling. A lot of people say, well, that's kind of weird. No, it's not. Ask her. Listen, when we go to the doctor and he says, oh, there's a nodule on your kidney, Ralph, and we need to do more investigation. What's the first thing you're going to do? Oh, Lord, pray for me. I need help. It's the same thing with your finances. If you're struggling with your finances, get on your knees and say to God, God, how can I fix this? What can I do? What are the tangible things? So that's what I do. I start there. I tie back to scripture. Just about every single show, I tie it somewhere back to scripture. I'll give you an example, like debt. It says in the Bible, the borrower is slave to the lender. Start there. Think about impactfulness that is. It talks in the Bible of if you lack wisdom, look for counsel. So I tie it all back to scripture because that is the starting point. God doesn't want us to struggle. God doesn't want us to be battling with our spouses and battling with the people around us. God doesn't want you sitting there afraid to answer the phone because the bill collectors are calling. God doesn't want the eviction notice stamped to your front door. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to let that happen to you. That can happen. You make bad decisions, you're going to have the consequences of those bad decisions. But all of us have fallen. All of us have failed. All of us have sinned. And guess what? We have a God that loves us no matter what we've done. And I start there. God, I've screwed up my finances. I've put myself in debt. I've made mistakes. I've done this. I've done that. I apologize, Lord. I am sorry. I am truly sorry. I'm going to turn that repentance and I'll say, Lord, show me how to fix this. Now, listen, Rory, that might mean getting 2 jobs. That might mean getting 3 jobs. That might mean selling everything you have and going down to a 1-bedroom apartment. That might mean selling your car and taking public transportation. I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to say to you, listen, the road that you're on might not be easy. But if you start with your faith first, put your faith first forward. I kind of messed up the way I said it, but put your faith forward. That's why I wrote the first chapter of my 3rd book. It starts with acknowledging that you are a child of God and asking him for guidance. So does that answer your question, Roy? That's kind of where I start.
No, I appreciate that. And yes, it does. And what you're looking for then is you're trying to, connect with God, you're connecting with your faith. And then you're looking for some sort of feeling, sign, impulse that's going to kind of guide you on what the next step is. Am I picking that up? Okay.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm not one of these guys that thinks, you're going to pray and this loud booming voice is going to say, Ralph, you should do. That's not what I'm talking about. But here's the problem, Roy. As Christian, I'll say this about Christian men. We don't like directions. And sometimes we just need to shut up long enough for God to say, Ralph, do this.
Yeah.
Ralph, think about this. Because guess what? He's going to put things in front of you. And that's the thing I see so many times. I see it with my clients that come in. I see a lot of tax clients. I do about 700 tax returns a year. And I'll see it a lot of times. The man will come in. He'll have no idea what's going on with the finances, right? But that's a partnership. You've got to both be on the same page financially. And you need to shut up and listen sometimes and let God lead you to where he wants you to take you. And like I said, that might mean you work 2 jobs. That might mean, we don't have a vacation this year, some kids, because we had to put a new roof on the house, or we just blew a tire on the car. But guess what? That's just reality.
No, that makes sense because while you're sitting there and you're praying and you're getting quiet and you're asking, God for help, you are, in fact, shutting up and getting out of your own way. So, I like the practical application of it for sure. Um, I've had the conversation several times with other folks on this show, even about, God can't get in there if you don't let him in. And so, especially as men, we don't often get to that point where we're receptive to the message. And this may be a good first step towards being receptive to the message that's trying to get through to you.
Rory, I heard somebody say this the other day. It talks about in the Bible that the sparrows and the birds didn't worry about where their food was coming from. But this guy said to me, he says, yes, Ralph, but guess what? They had to leave the nest. You got to do
Right.
something. You can't sit there like Buddha and figure I'm just going to sit here and make some sounds. And all of a sudden, God's going to throw this big check at me that I wasn't expecting. Doesn't work like that.
Right.
You got to leave the nest. You got to do something. You got to put some action, put some feet on the ground and do something.
Now, after that, then you go do a budget.
Correct. I'll change the word budget and I'll call it an intentional spending plan, because the word budget, people get nuts. A budget. Oh, Ralph, you're talking about restriction.
Right.
Second big tenet of what Ralph believes. I'm talking in the third person. It sounds funny. My wife says, you do that, people look at you like you're crazy. But anyway, intentional spending plan, because what we set our intentions to, we will do. And if you name where every single dollar goes, name it. This is where it goes. I'm going to assign it to this. That's an intentional spending plan. Be intentional. You might not have control over your job, whether your business closes down. You might not have a control over the economy, how much eggs are, how much gas is, but you do have control over what you do with the dollars that you have. You can make those intentions. So I'll just move away a little bit from the budget word, but yes. But even before we get to the budget, Rory, know where your money's going. You'd be amazed at how many people have no clue. I'll give you a great example of this. I counseled a couple about 7 or 8 years ago. Husband and wife, they came in, they both had good jobs making $150,000 each, making $300,000 as a family, okay? Come in to get their taxes done. Every year they owed 10 grand in taxes. The wife looks at me, she goes, Ralph, how does this happen? I said, well, let's do this. For the next 30 days, I want each of you to write down every single dollar that you spend. Every single dollar. They said, you know what? We're game. I said, great. Okay, I want to see you in 30 days or 40 days, and you show me where your money went, and then I can help you. Okay, so Rory, they put them on my calendar, 40 days. Come in there just smiling from ear to ear. They said, Ralph, we did everything you expected us to do, and look at this. And they put it out on paper. She was a spreadsheet queen, and she knew spreadsheet. Showed me the spreadsheet. And I'm looking down, I see the mortgage, I see the car loan, I see the this and the student loans. And then down at the bottom, there's this category that says ATM withdrawals. And I'm going, But not only did I see ATM withdrawals, it was $3,000 in ATM withdrawals. 30 days. And I said, wait a second. I said, where did the $3,000 go? That's none of your business. I said, yes, but it's your business. If you want me to help you, you better figure that out. And they said, well, Ralph, I need $20 for lunch. I need 10, and I'm not going to pick on Starbucks. You're drinking coffee. I need $10 for Starbucks, and I need this and that. And I said, yeah, here's your problem. Because there's $36,000 this year that just says ATM, that you have no idea where it went. So before you even get to the intentional spending plan, I'm going to challenge everybody. Here's your homework for today if you're listening to this show. Track for the next 30 days every dollar and where it goes, because it will open your eyes. And until you do that, you have no clue what's going on. Once you do that, you're going to be like, I had no idea we spent that much money ordering takeout. I had no idea that Amazon came to our house that many times. I had no idea that you get the idea, but you start there. And that is eye-opening for people. Now, a lot of people, they'll do it for a couple of days and they're like, oh, this is hard work, Ralph. Yeah, like I said, it's hard work to fix your finances.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. So you do a review of everything first, and then you get into the budget. And wow, so just regular ATM withdrawals. Oops.
Yeah, but think about it. But how many times do you throw $5 here, $10 there,
Right.
$15 here? Like I did a show. Yes, I do a live show every Tuesday with a good friend of mine. He's a professor, and we do a live where you can join the chat and ask questions. We don't get a lot of traffic to it, but we get some. And we were talking about that yesterday. Subscription creep. Like how many people have subscriptions for this? And I had a couple about 2 years ago. I did the same thing with them. Go 30 days, right? We get to the end and I said, all right, what's going on? And they couldn't believe it. They were each paying for Netflix. And I said, what are you each paying for? They got a family plan. Each of them had a family plan. That was the best part. But because they had never sat down and went through, and I tell people to be relentless. Go through every credit card statement, go through every bank statement, go through your PayPal account, go through Venmo, go through Cash App. Because a lot of people say, well, yeah, I do the checking account route, but that Cash App, no, you got to know where the money's going. Because you can't, listen, if you're in a boat, you're out in the middle of the lake, and the boat's taking on water, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to look for the hole.
Yeah.
Right. Well, figure out where the leaks are, because you can write the most beautiful budget in the world, but if you don't know where your money's going, that budget doesn't mean anything.
Right on.
Sorry, Rory, I get a little passionate, my friend. I hope I'm not blowing your microphone out here, but I get a little passionate about what I do, man. That's just the truth.
I'm glad to see it. Actually, I mean, I love your passion for it. It's keeping everybody awake, also because people start to talk about numbers and they're like, oh, geez, I don't want to have to do this. Nobody wants to have to do that. It's the ultimate in accountability to have to say, this is where I spent every dollar. Nobody wants that.
It's
How do you get past that? With what you do, how do you get past the fact that I think it's just a normal behavior for everybody to not want to do what you're telling them they should do?
Well, and I could say to them, you want to continue on the path you're on? Do you want to keep fighting with your spouse every week when paycheck time comes around and you don't have the money to do the things you want to do? Do you want to stop robbing Peter to pay Paul? Do you want your kids to look up to you and go, Mom and Dad, boy, they set a great example? Do you want to not worry about how you're going to live in retirement? Do you not want to worry about what happens if the car breaks down? Do you want to have to not worry about if there's a hole in the roof? See, I can sell them on all kinds of pain because that's see, if you don't do this, Rory, it's pain. Wow. See, it's real simple. If you touch the stove or touch the burners on the stove and it's hot, you get burnt, right? Well, if you don't know where your money's going, if you don't have an intentional plan of where you're going to spend your money, guess what happens? You're going to get burnt. So that's the way I sell it. It's not complicated. I say to them, listen, are you tired of going to bed at night struggling? Are you tired of being stressed out all the time? Are you tired of looking at your bank balance? I used to run a credit union, Roy. You'll love this one. I was the executive vice president of a credit union at 28. 40 employees, run a $30 million credit union. And I had a member come in one day. You'll love this story, right? He says to me, and he got sent over to me. I was the executive vice president. Sent over to me because he was fired up because he got a NSF charge from us, non-sufficient funds. He comes over to me. He says, Ralph, Mr. Ralph, he called me, as a matter of fact. Mr. Ralph, he says, I don't understand this. He says, and he's straight face, Rory. He says, I can't be overdrawn. I still have checks. But again, it's the lack of financial awareness. And this is a guy, listen to this. Our main group that we served in this, it was called American Spirit Credit in Newark, Delaware. You can check me on this. Our main group was people who worked at the Chrysler Assembly Plant in Newark, Delaware. These guys made $70,000, $80,000 a year. And every Friday morning, they would drain their accounts. They were bouncing checks, man. It was sad. But that was the mentality. I still have checks. I can't be overdrawn. I know it's kind of a funny story, but it's true.
Right. And
that's kind of what God has put me through so many different things. Like I saw what that looked like. I was the person that had to go and repo cars. I was the person that had to call the people and say, listen, can you pay your bill? Like at this assembly plant, they had a shutdown for almost 12 months where they were retooling the plant. Now, here's the funny thing. Like a lot of people said, oh, these guys weren't getting any money. Well, they were getting unemployment, plus they were getting sub pay, but they were only making about 70% of their income. Well, here's the problem, Rory. If you're living on 110% of your income, which a lot of people do, and now all of a sudden you're only getting 70%, you got a problem. Yeah. So I saw what that was like. And again, it was sad, but it was a lack of fundamental understanding of where your money's going, and how you can intentionally choose to put it to work for you. You can struggle or you can't. It's up to you. Look, I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself. Yeah. That's just the truth. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like you got listeners right now that are going, yeah, I'm struggling, Ralph. Okay, that's fine. Nothing that I talk about on my show requires a master's degree. Nothing that I talk about on my show requires anything more than, I'll be honest with you, probably an 8th grade education. Because it's really simple stuff. If what you have coming in is less than what you have going out, you got a problem. But until you take a look at that and you realize, wait a minute, My credit card balances keep going up. I keep on doing home equity loans on my house. Yeah, you got a problem.
Yeah, when you get to that point, it's either you got to reduce the spending or you got to increase the income. And people don't always like the idea of increasing the income and getting that extra job.
Hey,
So
Roy, I'm
you
going through
got
it
to
right
look
now.
at it.
Listen, at one point, about 5 or 6 years ago, I weighed 420 pounds. Okay. Went to the doctor. He says, Ralph, you're going to pop. My blood pressure was 200 over 100, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, all this kind of stuff. And he says, Ralph, he says, do you want to widow your wife and kids? And I said, doctor, you couldn't have been much more blunt on that one, could you? Well, where I'm going to tell you right now, 2 weeks ago, I got on the scale. I'm at the lowest weight I've been in 30 years. I'm 280 pounds. Now, a lot of people are like, 280 pounds, he's a big guy. Yeah, but when you started at 420, my
Wow.
diabetes is almost gone. I say all that because, listen, it's just like finances. If I eat too much, I gain weight. If I don't exercise, I gain weight. Your finances are the same way. If you take in less than what you put out, you're going to gain debt. You're going to gain heartache. You're going to lose your house. You're going to get your car repossessed. Just like a diet. It's no different than that.
I like that analogy. Yeah, that works. Like that a lot. The as people are going through this and they're listening to what you're having to say, and they're going, all right, I've heard this before. You know, I got to make a budget. I know, I got to do this. Um, is there in your the way that you're putting it together, where you're using faith, is the only place that faith comes into it at the beginning when you're, saying a prayer about, what do I do, and bring me some guidance, or is that ever present throughout the process with the way that you do it?
It's through the whole thing. Because guess what? Second thing, once you say, I'm going to put God first, the second thing I'm going to challenge you to do is give. You're like, wait a minute. What did you just say give? Like, I can't pay my bills, Ralph, and you're telling me you want me to give. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Even if it's $1 a day, $1 a week, I want you to give, because that giving builds the habit. The habit builds the appreciation and gratitude, because guess what? Part of the solution is being grateful what you already have. If you live in this country, if you're listening to this right now, or you're watching this right now, you ought to be grateful, because you are far ahead of most of the rest of the world. Just because you're able to tune into something, to watch it or listen to it, start to understand that gratefulness. So yes, the Christian faith, the faith comes throughout the whole thing, because the second tier, once you pray about it, is I want you to start giving back. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. Like, I say this to people sometimes. They'll come in to get their taxes done, Roy, and they'll be like, oh, Ralph. Because I get to the question. I'll say, okay, let's talk about charitable contributions. Did you give any money to charity? Ralph, you will not believe. We gave a ton this year. And I'll say to them, okay, well, let's talk about that. I look at their tax return, and they made $100,000. Ralph, and I'll say to them, okay, well, tell me how much you gave. Oh, Ralph, you'll never believe this. We gave $300 last year. And I don't judge them. Just understand where I'm at, Roy. I'm not judging them, but I'm saying, that's not a lot. See, the Bible talks about tithing. 10% is the minimum. Now, I'm not saying if you're struggling, you got to go out there and give 10% to the church, because I'm not one of these people that's these prosperity preachers that are going to say, well, Ralph said, if I give everything I have, man, the Lord is going to bless me. No, but you need to start giving. I don't care if it's $1 a week. I don't care, but be cheerful about it, because that's another part of the scripture. You got to tie it all together, Rory. Be a cheerful giver. But see, I haven't even talked about budgets at this point. I talked about prayer and I talked about giving, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
talked about how to grow income. Yeah. But see, then I'm going to get into, how do you grow income? Well, pray about it. Do you have a skill? Do you have a side hustle that you can do, because God has gifted you with the ability to talk, or the ability to watch kids, or the ability to cut grass, or what? So it all goes into it. And then have God help you with retirement planning. Have God help you. He doesn't leave it's the whole thing. He's in the whole part of it. And once you make him, see, here's the thing. You got to understand. He's flying the plane. You're just a passenger.
Like it. Like it. Okay. So that's involved. God's involved in the entire plan. Tithing comes in. How do you end up making these changes? I mean, how do these people end up saying, in their minds, coming to the agreement and to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I have to make these changes. Yes, we've got to do this. Ralph, you're right. That's great. How do I put it into practice now?
They make one change and then they see the momentum build. Then they make that second change and they see the momentum build. Then they start to put that money into the collection plate, or it doesn't have to be a church, wherever, pick a charity. I don't care. They start to see the momentum, and see, God's going to give you those little wins. And as you start to see those wins, picture a snowball, starts at the top of the hill, right? Small. Then as it starts to move down the hill, it's growing. It's picking up all that rest of that snow. Well, your finances work the same way. Once you start to see those little wins, once you start to have gratefulness for that, oh, that was a win. Hey, I had a guy on the show the other day. He said something to me he says, Ralph, he says, I'm not good at saving money, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down every time I choose not to spend money. I said, that's perfect. Keep a journal of how much you didn't spend. But think about that, Rory. Think about that. We can chuckle about that, but that's huge. Because I said, that's real money. Yes, you didn't spend it. You didn't save it. You saved it. You didn't spend it. Track that. See what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't, people think, oh, I got to move these mountains, right? No, take one step. Take one step this week. For example, let's say, we'll talk about the emergency fund. Do all your bills and say, look, I got $20 left over. Put 10 of that to the church, put 10 of that to your emergency fund. That's all I'm saying. It could be little things. But once you see here's the thing. God is amazing, because when these things happen, like I've had clients say to me all the time, they're like, Ralph, I did what you said, man. And I gave the church, and you're never going to believe this. I got a raise at work. Ralph, you're never going to believe this. It's happened to my wife and I. We weren't married too long. The kids were really young, and we were struggling. I've been there. So I've been struggling. I know what that's like. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, dude. Like I've worked for what I have. But we were struggling. And I remember one day we were trying to figure, it was around Christmas time. And we said, how are we going to buy toys for these kids? They're little kids. They don't understand scarcity. They don't understand mom and dad are struggling. They don't get it. Look around. We got new cars. We're living in a nice house, but we're struggling. And it was funny because we went out to the mailbox and our insurance company issued a refund for overpayment. And it was just enough to cover Christmas for the kids. Now look. See, God is awesome, dude. You're not going to outgive God. See, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people need to understand. Like, oh, I'm giving a lot, but you ain't going to outgive God. You're not going to outgive God. He's going to show up when you least expect it. You just got to be faithful. You just got to be that steward. You just got to be that financially confident Christian. That's what we all need to be. We need to be financially confident Christians. I'm not saying you're going to listen. God appoints people with certain things. You may never be a millionaire. You may never be the captain of industry. You may never be but God's got a purpose for your life. But until you get this figured out, you're never going to live in God's purpose. If you're struggling, God can't use you. I don't know how many clients I've worked with, Rory, who got to retirement and they're like, Ralph, I don't understand, man. I've been so blessed. And now I'm able to go do missionary work because I'm prepared for retirement. I didn't do that. God did that. And I go, yeah, see, he was there the whole time. So as I'm saying, I hope I'm coming across clear. Like, it just happens. I can't explain it. You know, there are times when, look, the truth of the matter is being a Christian is a whole lot of I don't understand, right? I don't get it. It just happens, right? Like, as an example, my wife is 33 years old, okay? Not now. This was 20 years ago. We just started our own practice. This is the truth, Roy. We were in our own business. We were on the second floor of a buy here, pay here car dealership. When I'd start in the morning, I'd flick the light on and mice would scurry. So I had to run it by mouse traps. This is no joke. 30 days into it, my wife says, now I had worked for my dad's accounting practice. We had kind of a rough falling out. Working for a family is a challenge. But anyway, start my own practice. 30 days into it, guy calls me and says, well, do you need health insurance? I said, we're young. I think I'm 33 at the time, or I was even younger, maybe around 33 at the time. Right? Young. I don't need help. Oh, listen, I can get you this catastrophic health insurance policy. I really think you should have it. I said, okay, how much is it going to cost? I don't remember, $400, whatever it was. 3 weeks later, my wife is diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, there's no happenstance. Okay? Now, she's great. She's cancer-free, knocking on 20 years. But see, God did that. God put us in a position where we could afford to buy health insurance because he already saw it. He already knew what we needed. So I go back to your question, how do you motivate people? Listen to the people around you. Appreciate the things you have. That's the problem with a lot of people. They sit there and they feel sorry for themselves. Oh, I'm in such a tough time. Look around you. Look what you got. You go to the sink and turn the water on, and water comes out. You go to the grocery store, there's food in the grocery store to buy. Go to someone. I had a client the other day said to me, he just did a mission tour in India. He said, you've not seen poverty till you've been to India. He said, people in this country need to realize just how fortunate they are. So, Roy, that's what I'm saying, dude, is start off with appreciating what you do have and stop belly aching about what you don't have. I think when you do that, then your whole perspective changes. And sometimes you just need somebody to come alongside you, let Ralph put his arm around you and say, listen, it's not as bad as it seems. Let me point these things out to you. And I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of encouraging. I do a lot of, hey, you can do this. I've seen people do this. I've seen people come from the point of losing their homes and losing their cars and going back to a point where they are being successful again. You can do this.
Love it. Now you're doing coaching, and that was the next thing I was going to bring up, because it does say you're a business coach. Is this where you work with, couples or individuals one-on-one on what we've been talking about today is through the coaching?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really doing two areas of coaching. One is I'm doing what I'll call financial counseling or financial coaching, where you can meet with me. We're either going to do it through Zoom. I'm looking at doing some like mastermind groups and all that kind of stuff. And then the coaching is really on the business side. Picture this. You're running a small business and you're like, man, no matter what I do, I can't find good people. I'm always cash flow is a challenge. I'm trying to figure, how do I make this business work? My wife, my children are counting on me. That's the person I want to work with. That's the person I'm working with saying, hey, I'm working on right now a 12-week program of how to get you from point A to point B. And guess where it starts? Understanding where you are. Here we go again, back at the same place, right? Where are we? Appreciate what you have. Now, how can we take it to the next level? And acknowledging that you got to put Christ at the center of this. I had a client say to me, it's probably been 2 years ago. He said to me, Ralph, he says, I just don't understand it. He says, I struggle, man. I pray all the time and my business just doesn't get anywhere. And I said, that's right, dude. But just 2 weeks ago, you were telling me about how you ripped this guy off and you charged him twice what you would have charged somebody else because you saw he could afford it. And I said, you think God is going to bless that? He's like, oh, that's being judgmental. I said, no, that's being realistic. So I'm going to turn things around, dude. Like people are like, they say to me sometimes, they're like, Ralph, man, you are way too transparent. Look, I'm not here to hold your hand. I'll put my arm around you, but sometimes you need a smack in the butt too. And you need somebody to say to you out of love, look, dude, you are messing this up. Have you considered this? Are you paying yourself first? Are you putting aside for the future? I call it like, a fortress fund for a business. I call emergency savings on a business. It's your fortress fund. What happens if you lose that big customer? What happens if, like I have clients right now in the HVAC business. Over the last 2 years, their prices are going up and up and up, right? Because government regulations, because you name it, environmental stuff, we can get into a whole discussion about that.
Sure.
Businesses have restricted. So guess what? My clients that have been preparing for that, my clients who have been putting aside, been working on the relationships with their customers, they're doing okay still. That's the kind of things I do in my business coaching. Come alongside, where are you at? How can we take it to the next level? But the first thing I tell them is, look, if you're not ready for hard work, call somebody else, because this here, I've got no overnight success ideas. I got no little shiny objects. Don't send me $99.95 and watch a YouTube video and I'm going to tell you about how fantastic. That's nonsense. And anybody who sells that, they ought to go to jail, because it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. I see content creators all the time. Oh, Ralph, I'm going to go viral with this. No, you're not. Put in the hard work.
Right.
You got to do the same thing if you're a business owner, or you're a couple struggling with your finances, or you're a single person struggling with your finances. Put the hard work in.
Great message. Great message. At the end of it all, it kind of comes down to that, And so I appreciate the way you interweave your faith and your belief in what you're doing. I think it makes you focus on it more. I think it definitely it adds to being purpose driven instead of just being numbers. And so I like that. I like that part of it. And, but at the end, it's free will. At the end, it's still, you've got to make the decision to do it. So now you coach people through that. Are you trying to help them with that part of it? Are you trying to help them with the alarm clock at 5 a.m. saying, hey, it's time to get up? Or are you trying to say, hey, look, as long as you get up and you're willing to do the work, here's the blueprint?
I'm going to help them get up at 5 o'clock. I'm going to show them the blueprint, but bigger than that, I'm going to show them the why afterwards. Because here's the truth, right? To be honest with you, yeah, I'm going to help them get their business, make it successful, not for that purpose. I want them to be successful so they can give back. I want them to be successful. They can support the churches. They can support the missionaries. They can support kingdoms. Because if you can't get to that point first, you're never going to help other people. And that's where the value is, because I know millionaires who get to the point of going, Ralph, I'm empty. My bank account is full. My car driveway is full of cars. I got 3 houses and I'm empty. So see, a lot of people come into it where they think, oh, when my business is successful, I'm going to feel great. When my business is, I'm going to feel fantastic. But what they realize, it's the why that's so important. So that's one thing. Like when I coach business people, the first thing I ask them, what is your 10-word brand promise? People are like, what are you talking about? 10 words, your brand promise. Mine, here's my 10-word brand promise for my daily financially confident Christian. To help people break the cycle of financial shame with confidence. Everything I do is focused on that. If you're a business owner, you need to know that. And every single thing you do needs to be focused on that. What is the pain you're trying to get people to overcome? What is the outcome? And it has to be some hope in it. That's why I say confidence. But so many business people, they just spend their time putting out fires. Put out the fire today, but they're not planning for tomorrow. So at the end of the day, to answer your question, big picture, I want to help them with their finances. I'm going to make the numbers look nice. I'm going to keep them out of trouble with the IRS. I'm going to be able to set them up in a financial way. I'll help them with financial software. I'll show them how to do things the right way. But the end goal is to help them find the purpose that God has for their life. And it might be in your practice. Like, it's funny, being an accountant, a lot of people say, well, you're all about numbers. No, I'm not. I'm about relationships. I meet people and I impact them for the kingdom every day. Now, maybe they're not ready to hear it, but they're going to be exposed to it.
I love it, sir. Absolutely love it. So people can listen to your podcast. They can get some of this information daily, weekly. They can read your books. They can get some of that info when they're ready, and they're really ready to make a move. They can hire you as a coach.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Love it. I mean, that's the full meal deal right there. You know, that's full service. So,
Yeah, and I meet you where you are. I meet
yeah,
you where you are. Now, for you, maybe it's I need just a little kernel every day, Ralph. Let me ease into this.
yeah.
But I think what happens is once you get that fire started, like I don't know about you. You ever seen young Christians and that fire gets started?
Hmm.
I mean, it's like, they get on fire. And I just like to sit back and watch that, man. That's like that to me is like, I remember I brought my first person to salvation when I was 14 years old, man. I was sitting in my friend's basement on Christmas night, and his girlfriend said, I don't know what happens to me when I die. I said, you want to know right now? And I saw that fire, man. I saw that fire take off, and I said, yeah, there's what matters in life. That's what matters.
Nice, nice. Love this. And you know, it kind of came and went, but congrats on that insane weight loss. I mean,
I'm getting there,
that's a
man.
story all
My
by
doctor said
itself.
to me the other day, he said, I'm just about the point where my A1C is going to put me out of being even pre-diabetic. And I was
Nice.
like, yeah, but it's hard work. I eat less. I work out more. I pray about it. Guess what? I pray about it every day. I said, Lord, help me to get past. And I use prescription drugs to help me along this. I'm not going to lie about that. It's true. It's all part of the process. But I pray about it. I said, God, look, what will you have me to do? He's like, Ralph, if you're a big fat guy, I can't have you work. I can't, you know, you want to work for the kingdom. I need you. I play church league softball. I'll be 53 in September. Like I play church league softball. Like this is the kind of stuff that God has given me to do. Why? Because I witnessed to people who might not be Christians. They come out to play softball. Oh, who's this guy, Ralph? I tell them my story. Oh, well, I meet them where they are.
Nice. I love it, sir. I really do. I like your program a lot. I think that putting these things together makes a lot of sense. And I think it doesn't just make it more palatable, it makes it more acceptable. And I think it also is going to wake some people up to it. So I love the way you're talking about it. I really do. As we kind of, you know, bring things together for, you know, in the interest of time and whatnot, I want to make sure that you're getting your message out there and that I haven't missed a step because you have a lot. You have a lot here and you have a lot of irons in the fire, like I said at the beginning. So let me just say, you know, and ask you, is there anything I didn't ask you about today? Is there anything that, you know, we talked about that you want to, you know, make sure you drive home a little harder, or maybe just a nugget or a leave behind for the folks as we kind of wrap things up here today? The floor is yours for a couple of minutes.
I just want people to understand that there is hope. I want people to understand that we have a living God that loves us. See, a lot of us come from places where maybe our relationship with our fathers here on earth wasn't great. And unfortunately, a lot of people see God as like that. You know, we can get a whole discussion about that.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize that God is a God that loves us, and he wants us to choose him. He wants us to decide to, like you said, free will. That's huge. Well, one of the ways you choose him is to be a better steward of the resources he gave you, that he continues to give you, that he continues to bless you with. So if you hear nothing else that I've said today, take that first step. Tune into my show every day and just listen to what I have to say. I'm going to start off with something simple. We're going to end with a prayer, and I'm going to end with a pat on the back of encouragement. That's what I'm going to encourage your listeners to do. It's one day at a time. Listen, you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. All you got to do is ask for forgiveness, and those mistakes go away. We can't dwell on the past. We can't change the past, but we can change today. We can change tomorrow. And guess what? The benefits to you, to your spouse, to your children are going to last a lifetime. And that's what I encourage everybody who's listening today. Listen, you don't need to buy my books. The podcast is free. You can see me on YouTube, on Rumble. Just go look me up and trust me. Just give me 10 minutes. It's about 7 or 8 minutes a day. Give me 10 minutes of your day. And I'm going to tell you right now, it will be powerful and it will be impactful, and it'll have you start thinking about, you know what? Because look, it's not about me, Rory. The Holy Spirit speaks to me. I've been recording podcasts. You're going to laugh when I tell you this. A lot of people think I'm crazy. My pastor's like, yeah, I get it. I use the teleprompter, okay? I put stuff in the teleprompter, and there have been 2 or 3 occasions over the last couple of weeks where what was in my teleprompter was not what was coming out of my mouth. Because I know the Holy Spirit works. He does. Let him work in your life. I'm just a vessel. Listen, I don't have all the answers, but the Lord will speak to people. The Lord will give you people around you who can help you. You just have to reach out. Start with that prayer. I said, Lord, I don't know what to do here. I'm broken. I'm lost. Put wise counsel around me. Listen to Rory's show. Listen to my show. Read the books. There's a ton of people. And God, at the end of the day, God loves you. He wants to see you successful. All you got to do is reach out. Here's a great, I'll leave you with this. Old Southern preacher said this. He said, Christianity is like Christmas morning. And I said, you got to tell me that one. I don't get it. Christianity is like this. He says, remember when you were a little kid and we had a 2-story house, right? And the rule at our house was the Christmas tree was downstairs. All the gifts are around it, but you can't go downstairs till mom and dad are up. Okay. So picture this, Christmas morning. We're sitting at the top of the steps, my sister and I, and we're looking down, and the tree is gleaming, the lights are dancing around, big old presents under the tree. And mom and dad, we go running down, we stand in front of the tree. What's the first thing we do, Rory? We open up the gifts. Well, guess what? Christianity is just a question of, do you open the gift? Do you open the gift? He's already given it to you. He put it in front of you. Do you open it? That's it. It's that simple. Open the gift. It's free. It's yours. You didn't do anything to earn it. You didn't do anything to deserve it. It's just yours.
Nice. I love the imagery, and a beautiful way to wrap things up like that, man. That was great. And I love that. All you have to do is open.
Well, let me just say one other thing. So if you're interested in a free copy of my ebook,
right.
Mastering Your Finances, you can go to Financially Confident Christian / Power of Man. That's Financially Confident Christian / Power Man. Rory will put it in the show notes so you'll be able to see it, but I will give you completely free an ebook copy. It's 47 pages. It'll take you about an hour to read it. I'm going to encourage you to do that. That's a great starting point. It gives you a 30,000-foot view of how to understand finances from a very simple place. It's yours absolutely free because I love you folks, and I want you to feel that love.
Beautiful. That's a great offer. And thank you for that generous offer for everybody. Folks, I will make sure that's in the show notes. We'll get that taken care of here afterwards. But that really is. Thank you for putting that out there for my folks.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
I appreciate you having me on your show. And I hope that there's one person listening right now that goes, this guy is crazy. I got to listen to him. He's lost his mind. I'm just being funny, Rory. But no, I truly do appreciate it, man. We have to support each other, right? That's at the end of the day. We got to support each other. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to your audience. I think it was profitable today. I really do.
I'm glad to hear that. Folks, Christian, accountant, podcast, host, author, farmer, husband, father, business coach, Ralph Estep Jr. Ralph, thank you very much officially for coming on the show, sharing all this with everybody, and just for putting everything in that perspective that I think really is going to connect with some folks. It's been great.
Rory, thank you, and God bless you, and God bless your audience as well.
Thank you. You as well. Folks, that's been another episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason we bring powerful men like this on here with these very powerful messages is because we are all trying to help you in your mission to be better providers, be better protectors, to be better leaders, to be better men, husbands, and fathers tomorrow than we are today. At some point, folks, you just have to realize that the reason we do all this is because you do, in fact, have value. And you're worth it. You're worth the fight. At some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.